Hello, everyone. So I'm here to recap this. Minnesota goes to 2-1. Oakland has fallen to 1-2 in a 34-14 victory. Now, Derek Carr went 27 of 34 for 242 yards, a 7.1 average, two touchdowns, and one pick. He was sacked four times, lost 28 yards, and had a quarterback rating of 103.7. Now, carrying the ball, Josh Jacobs led them with 10 carries for 44 yards, a 4.4 average, and his longest run of the day was 18 yards. DeAndre Washington carried it six times for 22 yards, so a 3.7 average. Rashard, 2 for 15. Waller, 1 for 7. Derek Carr carried it one time for no gain. So overall, it was 20 carries for 88 yards and a 4.4 average. Now, when it comes to their receiving targets, it's pretty much just Darren Waller, which I was kind of concerned it might be. He caught 13 of his 14 targets for 134 yards with a 10.3 average. And Nelson is their next leading receiver, catching 4 of 5 targets for 36 yards. And Tyrell Williams was the other one that caught a touchdown, him and J.J. Nelson both. But Williams only caught all 3 of his targets for just 29 yards and that touchdown. And then Renfro, 3 of 4 for 28. Jalen Richard, 3 for 3 for only 14 yards. And Moreau caught his one pass for 1 yard. So they were 3 of 11 on third down. That's only 27%. 1 of 2 in the red zone, which is 50%. And they were -1 in the turnover margin. 7 penalties for 84 yards and held the ball for 28 minutes and 28 seconds. Now, Minnesota, Cousins didn't have to do much this game at all, which was probably based on last week. We might like it that way. Cousins was 15 of 21 for 174 yards, 8.3 average yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks, 112 quarterback rating. Dalvin Cook, once again, was kind of the star of the show, as we've kind of come to expect so far this year in this brief season so far. He carried the ball 16 times for 110 yards, a 6.9 yards per carry average, had 1 touchdown, and his longest run was 25 yards. Madison had his best day so far as a pro in his rookie year with 12 carries for 58 yards, 1 touchdown, 4.8 yards per carry. Boone, 3 for 28, 9.3 yards a carry. Cousins actually scrambled a few times today, so that was kind of nice. He got 4 carries for 16 yards, including a designed quarterback draw, which was kind of interesting. And Thielen, 1 carry for 1 yard on that 1 touchdown on the goal line, and Mannion gets 2 carries for taking knees. So overall, it was 38 carries for 211 yards, a 5.6 average, and 3 scores on the ground. Now, receiving, they didn't do much receiving. Irv Smith Jr. was actually your leading receiver today with only 60 yards, catching all 3 of his targets. Adam Thielen caught 3 of 5 for 55 and a touch. Cook, 4 of 5 for 33. And Diggs caught all 3 of his targets for merely 15 yards. Rudolph caught his one target for 11 yards. And Abdullah and Ham both had targets, but they each had 0 yards. And Abdullah's lone target was almost an interception by Furl. So they were 5 of 9 on third down, so that's 55%. 3 for 4 in the red zone at 75%. +1 in the turnover margin. 6 penalties for 59 yards and held the ball for 31 minutes and 32 seconds. So now Dalvin is very good at football. I think we kind of know this now, but this is becoming kind of a thing because this rush defense was one of the better ones through the first 2 weeks, and we kind of just killed it today. So it's going to be interesting to see how next week goes for Chicago, be it on the road. But I do think this offense runs through Dalvin. If that wasn't clear by now to anyone, it certainly is now. And I think Kirk actually played within the system today, which means he just managed the game. And there's a lot of people who don't like that fact, but I do think if he just manages the game, just make the efficient throw, just make the right throw, which does include throwing it away sometimes, which we kind of learned in Green Bay, didn't we, Kirk? And I think the pass protection was pretty good today. Irv, I think, should be more involved, as should Alexander Madison, just so we can kind of preserve Cook down the line. Because as good as Cook is, we need him through the later portion of this season, too. Not just now, but later, especially if we do plan on actually making the playoffs this year, which would be ideal. But considering we're currently third in the division because of the tie kind of thing with Arizona and Detroit. So Detroit's technically unbeaten, but still early. We're 2-1. That's all that can be controlled now. But I do think both of those players should be more involved because Irv, I think, when you add in the play action passing of this team, you could really use a threat like Irv Smith, who runs a 4.6, where Rudolph is, running a 7 flat out there. And Alexander Madison, I think, once again, we're just trying to preserve, and he kind of has more of a bruising style anyway, so it's a nice change of pace of things. Defensively, it was pretty dominant from start to finish. That was pretty good to see after last week and start out that way. Waller did prove to be a mismatch. I was a little bit concerned as he ran a 4.46 from the combine, coming in at 6'6", and that's a tight end. So I do think they need to shore up some fourth down plays. They converted 67%. That was 2 for 3, which did involve the nifty little flip out to Josh Jacobs for 18 yards. Special teams, good job, Dan. He went 4 for 4 on his extra points and 2 for 2 on the field goals, which included a 50-yard field goal. And it would be nice if BB didn't muff the ball anymore. I think this was his second one this year. I think he muffed one last week in Green Bay as well. So I think it was actually really good to see Minnesota come and actually take care of things at home. We kind of saw it last year where it was kind of a similar situation in the same week. They come home, face Buffalo. They're supposed to, they were heavy favorites and they were supposed to just come in, rout them. They did not. They did not at all. They got kind of smacked in the face in their own building, losing 27-6. And this year, we kind of saw a similar thing. Well, we had a pretty rough week in Green Bay, again, coming from week 2 to week 3 to a team that you should definitely beat. And it was kind of nice of them to actually just handle business as it should be handled this time around and just kind of do what you were supposed to do. Now, BB is getting an MRI on an ankle, so a thin wide receiving core gets thinner as they now, if he can't go for however many weeks it is, or even if it is just 1 week going into Chicago, for that 1 week, our only receivers as it stands right this second would be Thielen, Diggs, Olabisi, Johnson. That's it. So I think you might see them sign a receiver. They were already working out some guys. I think it was Jordan Matthews and Deontay Burnett. I think Gentry was in there as well. So they've already been kind of working out guys. And I would assume they might go and actually get one of them now, especially with one of them hurt that they currently have. And on to Chicago we go. I think Chicago is probably going to be a pretty telling game for how this season should